It's nothing against you all, but I have to take my dog out. I was with CSEA and MTA until this time.
With the dog.
Nothing against the meeting, I just have to go. I was meeting with the kid.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We appreciate that. Thank you for letting us know. I do think it's a 6 year old. I want that.
Yes.
Mr.
Chen.
I opened it. Yes, September, and the training proposal is just going to be. I had a planning team meeting yesterday.
You gotta call Michael.
Oh.
Scott, you're
No, Michael is.
I don't have to for.
Just call him.
We're gonna call Michael and the meeting will start after he's connected, so be patient with us.
Michael's sick?
Yes,
He's still sick?
he's still sick.
Scott. I know this is Scott. This is over the second guys. Want to call and get you guys from the meeting.
Right, call this meeting to order. This is an emergency meeting of the Milpitas Unified School District Board of Education. Roll call, we cannot connect with Michael, so whenever he calls in, we'll connect it. Kush?
Here.
Kelly? Here. Oh, we don't have Krishna. Chris Norwood.
Here.
And I'm here, Hong Lin. Right, review and approve the open session agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the open session agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Flag salute. Please join me in flag salute.
Hello.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're on speaker now.
Moving right on to number 5, proposed action and discussion items.
No, we don't.
Pandemic planning, Superintendent Jordan.
All right, I'm gonna put you on speaker, just. Yeah.
All right. Hello, Michael. Can you put on
Give her
one
a
of these microphones so you can hear? Right there.
I'm putting the phone up to,
And you just-
oh, just-
There you go. All right. Okay. So, good evening, everybody, and good evening, board. We wanted to we asked if you would call this meeting because we want to give you an update on what the school team is doing so that we can have continuous learning, and also to give you information regarding the alternate flexible learning plan for March 16th to April 3rd, as was called by the county superintendent of schools for all schools in the county. And we have, before we get started, because I know there is, actually maybe not put it down. There you go. Because I know that there is some anxiety that I've learned of from some of our employees. I want to just start off the meeting by letting people know that on Monday, we would still like to have, I expect to have everybody at work, and Monday morning, association leaders and district leadership, we will sit down together and talk about what telecommuting looks like. Okay? All right, so I have asked Assistant Superintendent Norma Rodriguez to share with you our plans, and she has put together a number of different resources. And before she launches, I just have to say that I feel very proud to be a superintendent in Milpitas Unified, because long before this started, when we first heard of our first case of a traveler who needed to be quarantined, we started at those, maybe you can just come on. We started to plan by creating independent study packets so that our students who had to be quarantined because they were returning from China or Italy or one of the other level 3 countries, we wanted to ensure that they still had access to learning. Then that kicked us off into preparing for the potential of extended learning or educate everywhere. And thank you. And our staff started working on that, some of them in small groups on their own, some of them after school, and then others taking advantage of minimum days that they already had in place. And then once we started to kick into the disinfecting every school site with that minimum schedule, our staff took advantage of working through that. And I also have to say that we have association leadership and employees who really care about our mission, and they also care about each other. And we always work things through, such as case in point, starting off our meeting tonight, announcing that we will have a meeting Monday morning to work through the telecommuting piece that we have before us. Because our employees will be paid during this 3-week period, and it is not spring break. It is flexible learning, and students are at home. Schools are not closed. It's just that our students are at home, and then our employees will figure out a way that most of them can telecommunicate. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start. Norma, if you could walk us through the different resources.
Sure, thank you, Superintendent Jordan, and board members and community, thank you for being here. As soon as the timeline that we have here, March 16th through April 3rd, our students will be learning from home.
Sorry, I'd like to add one thing. We had called an emergency board meeting today prior to the announcement of the Santa Clara County to discuss what our schedule was going to be regarding school. We were focusing on the decision of when we were going to transition to Educate Everywhere versus anything else. And so now that the information came out from the county of what they have planned, the presentation tonight is somewhat inclusive of that conversation, but now the board will have a better understanding, as well as the community, of the direction that we're going to be in, whether or not to determine we were going to be prepared to be in this direction. So the board had scheduled to get together tonight to make the decision because we had heard all the concerns from the community about the ability to be proactive and not wait for the first case, but to be able to make a decision for the community. So, but I'm grateful that what the county had announced for the region, and now we're going to get a chance to have a good understanding of where we're going to go. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. So the timeline, we have been preparing, and I will go over the pre-planning phase in the next slide. But this is the timeline that we have that was prompted by the announcement from the county. We want by March 16th through the 18th for the staff to come and finalize the plans that we started preparing since last week. And March 18th, teachers informing the parents and the students how to connect each day. And then March 19th, the students having access to this learning from home. The pre-planning phase really began, like the Superintendent Jordan explained, and also Vice President Norwood. It began when we got notice of what was happening in China, because we know that a lot of our parent communities travel to China, and so we wanted to be prepared for the safety of our students. The pre-planning also, it started as really providing our parents the opportunity to do an independent studies at home. And last Monday, we called an emergency meeting for all of the managers, and at that point, the union was also here, all of the bargaining units, and we discussed the possibility of getting ready. At that time, the principals were given the charge to come back to the sites and bring their staffs together by grade levels, by departments, so that they could start thinking about what would a schedule look like, what will the materials make available. And so immediately after, the principals got together and created this document where we have by grade, all of the resources by grade levels, and then event agendas for the staff meetings, getting together, the technology resources, some tasks, and all of this is creating proposed distance learning schedule to support our parents. So in other words, the principals very proactively as leaders went and gather their staffs together to plan that. And so a lot, when you open the Google folders, you will see a lot of ideas for our parents, what math activities to do at home, including some resources by subject area. And so the work had begun. And the other thing that we had done, so that was the pre-planning before we knew that this was going to happen this fast. The planning phase, that's when we are asking our teachers to come back next week to finalize, to refine. There's the articulation for them to be basically fine-tuning all of that to create basically a communication for the parents. All of this work is to be placed in the special education today got together and created a plan and took into consideration about the needs of the students. And so this articulation plan it's also linked here. The execution phase is basically what you saw by Wednesday. We wanted our teachers to have already curated by grade levels, the work that we're going to make available to our parents. And when we're looking at the parent communication, how will we communicate to the parents? And so we're looking at, we created already how we're going to, with a very detailed, explicit information to the parents, when to log in, how to log in, where will the resources be. Some teachers as well looked at, for the students 3rd grade and up, some mode of platform to use will be the Google Classroom. For the teachers who don't have that, they have different platforms. For the students who are a younger age, we're looking at having access through the parent link, Parent Square, which the parents are very familiar with, and so the teachers, that's how they communicate through that mode. We also created the resources for our parents in terms of where would the parents, is a site that we created where the parents will have the parent and guardian support so that they have access to that, and really learning about the responsibility and the partnership with the teachers, as well as the teachers creating a calendar of how often and will they connect with their students on a distance learning. And so this is all drafts. This is all work that has been done expeditiously and in collaboration with leaders at the site, with teachers at the sites. And by all means, it's not perfect because we're not looking for perfection. We are looking for a way of ensuring that our kids continue to learn at home, and at the same time, we to ensure that our teachers are safe and our employees are safe as well. So that's what we have. Some of the things that we still have to think about, and in the next day or two, is meals for our students. We already have a plan, and we will be communicating with our parents about that. We are aware that there's a hardship for many parents who don't have the possibility of them babysitting or no one to stay at home with their kids, and they have to go to work, and so we have to find out, would we have hubs for those students, how many students, and how to do that to make sure that we continue to be a service to the community, and again, ensuring the safety of our employees and the safety of everyone involved. What we want to also include is continue to keep parents informed via Zoom virtual meetings, the superintendent and myself informing how it's going, and also in the same Google site to create a forum for our parents to communicate with us and how things are going as well, so we stay in contact as well. Questions?
Thank you, Norma. So do the students follow the schedule that they currently have?
So one of the things that's a very good question. We created a schedule that the teachers together by 1st grade, by grade level, in the Google site that I created also. It's basically we want our parents to say, it's the kids to say, you're learning at home, but it's flexible. So what will work? What routines do we need to create for our students at home that they would have some sort of routines, and it will vary depending on each of the households, right? And so the parents with the kids will have to say, so this is what the schedule at school looked like. You did math, you did at home. How do we create that so that you spend 1 hour doing math, and these are the resources? How do we do that? And it will be vary. So we created a sample schedule, and we want to encourage the parents to work with their families and their students to create a routine. So that there is a routine for the kids to pretty much like the routine that you do for homework. So when you come home, you first watch a little bit of TV, or you take a snack, and when do you do your homework? So it all depends by family. So we created some samples for parents.
Thank you. So they do not have to get on the computer at 8 a.m. and starting their first period.
No, it has to be flexible. We want the learning to continue, and a lot of our teachers have thinking about, is it a video? Is it that the kids watch, that the kids reflect on, that the kids write about? Is it that they're gonna be reading for, 45 minutes? They're going to write some questions about the reading. They're going to write a summary about whether the teachers are being very thoughtful about the learning activities that they're creating for the students. And so taking advantage of that, we want the kids to continue to read, write, communicate, use their critical thinking skills, practice their math. Probably they have a measuring stick that they're gonna be measuring the perimeter around the kitchen around. And so those are things that the kids can engage in a fun, engaging way, but they're still applying their mathematical thinking, their science, etc.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Norma, can you, Superintendent Jordan, do you have a description of the, Educate Everywhere, so that kind of gives an overview
We
of
do,
what it's all about?
we do, Ms. Rodriguez, Superintendent Rodriguez, there was the Educate Everywhere description that I saw a moment ago.
Here?
Uh-huh. Can you make it larger?
No, it's a draft.
Okay. So the Educate Everywhere is a description which gives us some daily expectations from students and families. And on Wednesday, teachers will connect with students either via email or a video message, or however it's up to the teacher how to do that. And that will be the introduction to the student and the parents about what that teacher expects for their Educate Everywhere module for the next 3 weeks.
We had a last night, we had a meeting with, PTA, council and, school site council and they had talked about, a couple different things. And one of the things was they talked about, routines for the students, because the fact that we're gonna be our children are gonna be out of school, we're not having to go to school every day, they are mentally going to think that they don't have to do school. And what they're used to on a continuous basis is that routine. When they go to school, the teachers have a routine. So part of the thing that I appreciate about what's being shown here is the fact that there is a guideline or a manner upon which parents can start to map out a routine for their students. I also appreciate the fact that you're looking at using things around the house to become a part of their academic experience. A lot of times kids think school is the only place that they're supposed to be learning. But the reality is every step of the way in their lives is a learning opportunity that they can apply academically. So those things I appreciate. What I didn't necessarily see in here, and maybe we needed Sandy from nutrition to talk about it, but a number of kids depend upon school nutrition, breakfast and lunch, and it's a part of their lives and routine. So can you talk to that a little bit?
So, I have been working, collaboratively with, Sandy, our, school nutrition, director. And we have identified, 3 hubs for us to, provide the meals for any student who needs it. And so, we are looking at, solidifying those 3 hubs and the geographic areas where we'll be at the far end, here, and one of the hubs will be here at the district office. And we need to develop the schedule to inform the parents by Wednesday, the times that the time that they can come and collect, the food. The food is going to be, bagged. You just come and pick it up and go back. So we have that.
Also for the meals, Sandy Nguyen, our Director of Student Nutrition Services, may be coordinating with the director on the city side, Renee Lawrenson, for potentially using the sports center as a hub as well.
So this is not just, so you said lunch, breakfast and lunch for all,
Yes.
not just free and reduced?
For all, no questions asked.
Okay, thank you for that. We talk a little bit about technology accessibility, or how do we make sure that all of our students, or the students that require technology that may not have technology, or students that have technology at home but it may be outdated and it may not be compatible with the resources that the students need to work. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
Someone talk to that point, please.
Before, earlier this week, every school site principal was asked to either have their teachers find out directly from their parents in their classroom, or as a school-wide survey to find out which students don't have access to technology, so that we can provide it for them. We do know that we have 150 families because we've already identified them, and they each were issued a Chromebook. And so for those families who don't have a device at home, like a computer, we'll issue a Chromebook to them. And we are working on, for those who don't have Wi-Fi, we're working with the city and potentially having hotspots for those households. Since you, go ahead.
Support. We are in the era of Common Core state standards, and a number of our parents haven't been involved with their students' homework or touched their students' homework in a very long time. So I can see some of the glassy eyes out in the audience, like, okay, I gotta start doing homework or working with my kid again, and I'm not quite sure what they're doing. Do we have plans where a parent may not understand or look at what they're being asked to do, and they're not quite sure what to do on behalf of their student?
Did you talk about that today with the team? If not, then I can answer that.
We have not talked to the team about that, and the only thing that we talk about is when the parents have any questions, where to direct the questions. And for us to have a cohort here who are answering some of those questions.
And then also last night with our parent leaders, it was suggested by a couple of the parents that we create some tutoring opportunities for high school students who might be interested. They could tutor. I love this idea. They suggested that we have students who could tutor online for how to navigate certain things. And also we wondered about substitute paras and substitute teachers who might be looking for some extra income. That might, if a parent is interested in that, figuring out a way to connect them. And then again, also as Assistant Superintendent said, that we will still have some people here in the schools. We haven't figured that out exactly. Monday morning we'll be talking about that as one of our planning points. And so they'll be available also in person.
So what's in it for the high school kid?
Community service.
I know that having a high schooler at home myself, there needs to be some additional motivation for him to want to do more than just the bare minimum of the schoolwork that he's going to want to complete. So I think the community service idea is a good one. Thank you.
Yeah. And also at the parent meeting last night, they started to talk about how they could create parent networks to support each other with different aspects that parents deal with. And we hadn't expected this immediate. Actually, what I had planned to ask the board tonight was about putting all of the schools on minimum day next week and canceling parent-teacher conferences so that we could prepare. That's okay though, here we are. Mhm.
The other thing that we were wondering is for our teachers to create a schedule to touch base with the kids via Google Chat. And that will be another way of either in small groups or individually. But it's really the teachers thinking about how they're gonna be checking in with the students remotely.
And there's another piece today that the special ed team worked on, and that was a concern that we talked about last time with parents, and I didn't have an answer yet. So if you could share what the draft is so far for special ed support.
So, let me see. Sorry, you're gonna see all my work here. I don't expect you to see everything, can I not? Yeah, if you can. I need to find my work.
While she's preparing that, Superintendent Jordan, when you had the parent meeting last night, which groups were represented, which schools were represented?
Almost every school was there except for 4. Ms. Brunson, can you help me remember?
Senate,
Rose.
Senate, Kertner, Meadows,
Zanker,
And say,
Zaker.
yes. And also we had Potter's Unidas and our African Ancestry Success Community was represented, but we didn't do a Vietnamese representative, so that's another group that I think we should connect with on a parent briefing, as well as we didn't have anybody from our inclusive PTA, which is our parents who have students who are in the special ed program.
So are we scheduled to do those? Or are we gonna do those?
Yes, I would like to do those next week and Monday night, potentially for our Vietnamese families.
Okay.
So I'm going to open 2 documents that were generated by the special education team today in terms of the preliminary plans that we will need to continue to work on as we move forward. Assessments is really the step flexible protocol. As you can see, the meetings, what are we going to do about during the meeting, after the meeting, etc. So everything.
I'm sorry, I can't go that fast. I can't read that fast.
Okay.
I mean, I want to scan at least,
Okay.
so we can go back up.
Sure.
Helpful. Thank you.
Is this a public document that?
Not yet, it's a draft, I was just letting people know that our team Prepare has taken into consideration everything. That's why next week is critical that we meet so that we can flesh out the plans before we communicate with the parents. That's why I went fast.
No worries.
But just to assure the parents that we have been planning about what we're planning to do. I'm thinking about parents with phone conferences, if they are comfortable. If parents are not comfortable, then what will we do? Maybe a Google Hangout. So the parent communication, to how we're going to handle that. So all of that has been checked. I'd like to go to the other document, if I may. The other document we looked at was the considerations, and that was basically a question and answer. We went through all of the questions that were generated about our students with special needs. Is the district required? Is parent elects to move? Lots of questions that I'm sure will generate a lot more questions from our parents, and we will have to, we actually encouraging all of those questions, then what will we do? So this was all of the team brainstorming the different possibilities and different solutions for the different possibilities.
Sorry, Norman. This message is for Michael. You are attending the meeting here, Michael. So any message or any questions, comments that you have, you need to let us know and do not share it on YouTube because we won't know the question. Thank you. And sorry, Norman.
That's okay.
Turn off the chat.
You can't turn it off.
So I wanted to also, our team is working with the county and with the state for guidelines, as well as with the neighboring school districts as to how we are, it's really what has allowed us is to collaborate across school districts with the state and the county to share best practices with one another. Again, this is in draft form.
Can someone give us an idea of what other school districts or where other school districts are in this process in terms of preparing their students for continued learning? And I asked that question for a couple of reasons. One, while we understand that the health and safety of our children is paramount, the responsibility or the role of a school district in a community is to make sure that those children are educated. And there are 36 weeks in a school year. So missing 3 weeks of a school year is a little bit less than a third of that. And so not having education during that time will create learning gaps that will follow them. We have high school seniors that are looking to graduate and their GPA in terms of as far as their college transcripts. So can you share a little bit about where we are in this process in comparison to other school districts?
Sure. I feel very indebted to the work that has been done in the past years to create the infrastructure in terms of the technology and the investment to ensure that every child has access to a tool to have access to the learning. I'm also indebted to the teachers' willingness to learn and move forward towards a blended learning format and a personalized learning format where the students can learn anywhere at any time, 24/7. We do have teachers of different areas of expertise. We have experts in the house who have implemented this type of learning already. Teachers who are flipping the classroom, who are videotaping their lessons and make the lessons available so that if the students are having the lesson, they can go and view it again and again until they can master the content. that is work that has been done previously, and it's planted the seeds for this event. Many school districts either don't have a strong infrastructure in place or don't have the means to provide the tools for our students to have that at home, and so that creates a huge inequity. The other one is that in being with receiving phone calls, and today at 12 o'clock we were at the county, they were here, we were in professional development, and they said, you are at the forefront, can you share what you have done? Because a lot of school districts are not necessarily as well prepared as we are. And so there are 2 school districts that are at the forefront of preparing the learning, the continuous learning at home, and that's Morgan Hill School District and ours.
And Palo Alto will also have an online learning for their high school students.
I'd like to call in 5 minutes, Mrs. Please. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
What's your point?
Someone who one of the speakers was answered that it was Norma Virginia speaking. And I think that was superintendent, something about building response. So there was an example of smoke days earlier.
But that's trust. Yes. Because if she does, oh, okay. I know what you mean. Yeah, no, we don't know. It's about. Right, I know that.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. If you have questions, you can let me know and I'll put your phone next to the mic and you can ask the question so I can share that with the whole board, okay? Or comments too.
Michael, could you acknowledge the comments that the board president made about if you have any questions or comments? Because this is a board meeting as if you were in this room. So we're at the dais and we are interacting, we're paying attention to the presentation and we are interacting with the staff, asking questions.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
This is not a time to be interactive and chat because our opportunity is here to serve the community and the public from this position behind the dais.
I would like to say that many members of the public are in the chat, and that is their form of engagement with our meeting.
This is a meeting for the board. Thank you, Michael.
Not for the. So it's not.
There are no public comments. Thank you, Michael.
No, we're not commenting. No.
This is not an interactive public comment time, Michael. Thank you.
That would be helpful.
Presence is helpful. Physical presence is helpful.
Excuse me?
I didn't stutter.
Right, could
I said physical presence is helpful.
I believe I already stated I would be conferencing in because I have not been feeling 100%. And I would like to remind you of the county guidelines that employers should encourage people feeling sick to stay at home.
I believe the statement was, which we're not going to go tit for tat, is that you wanted to be helpful. So as board members, we realize that presence is helpful. We understand the county guidelines and we appreciate that you wanted to honor them today, just like we honored your opportunity to participate via the telephone and also observe the school board meeting on YouTube. So thank you.
All right, let's proceed. Norma?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were just speaking, I believe, about the services for our special ed students.
And I had opened the 2 documents that our team had created today. And that was the pre-planning with the understanding that we were coming back on Monday to flesh out the communication to the rest of our community.
And then now remembering also, and you were telling us about the county meeting that you had earlier today, and the county asked, those who were present asked you if you would share the documents that we've been working on, because we and Morgan Hill are ahead. And then I mentioned that Palo Alto is doing blended learning for their high school students. Yes. That's where we left.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing the fact that we are one of the leading districts in this effort to ensure that continuous learning or learning continuity happens for the children of Milpitas, inclusively of our special ed students, and acknowledging all the different demographics that we have. Much appreciated.
I do have a question about providing meals. You said it's breakfast and lunch. So do the students pick up at one time, or do they have to come back for lunch?
One time, so pickup is one time. We need to decide what time, so we can let the parents know that they would come and they would pick up 2 bags, the breakfast and the lunch to take home.
Okay, thank you. I think that's helpful for students who doesn't have transportation.
Have we considered for the students that don't have Wi-Fi for one reason or another, that they may be able to do some instructional learning at one of the hubs where they would have access to Wi-Fi?
We have talked about that. We also have our director of technology. We have talked about the possibility of a bus so that we can have that, and also a possibility.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, I want to add that I was in communication with the Director Michael Mooney from the Thompson City College Milpitas Extension, and that is going to be one of the hubs for us. It's going to be made available, and it's also available it has internet connectivity.
Thank you. So it might be a tougher question. Or I would think, what haven't we thought of? Or what, I mean, just in your own, there's been a lot going on. What do you think is missing at this phase?
Gosh, I think that I would rely on the thinking of our parents out there and our teachers and definitely the students, because this has been at the forefront, coming together and thinking about what are we missing. We're thinking about our most vulnerable students, our special ed, their special needs. We are thinking about our English language learners, I believe, is one of the things that we would have to, how do we provide that? That's something that we have really closely thought about that. We have thought about how to communicate with the parents on a regular basis, how they can get in touch with us, how the teachers can stay connected with the kids and however way they find, that is best for them. We have thought about the students whose parents cannot afford to leave them home by themselves. Is there a possibility for us to provide some hubs for them to be there? But then there's also, well, isn't that meant some of the people in danger, so, of contamination?
You mentioned the word danger, and so when I hear the word danger, I think about city, I think about police support. What type of conversations that we had with the city in terms of this, and that might be a message for the superintendent. What type of communication that we had with the city on this?
We've had 3 different levels of communication. One, which you and President Leon are aware of, is the communication string that we've had with Vice Mayor, Mayor, and Assistant City Manager and City Manager. And we've now instituted a weekly connection with them. Then I have a weekly connection with just the city manager. And yesterday I spoke with the chief of police, and we all have, if you think about a Venn diagram, which is something like this, where you have the overlapping pieces. And our overlapping pieces, when we think of city, police, and schools, is making sure that we're following the guidelines around gatherings, which are now, I believe, 25 to 30 people, and making sure you have social distance, and thinking about the density of the crowd, meaning the ages of the crowd, the susceptibility to disease, as well as potential travelers, and if it's inside or outside. So all 3 of us have those considerations. All 3 of us have the same considerations around, or similar considerations around our staff and those who are essential and who are physically present, and those who are able to do telecommuting with their essential duties. We are also have been talking about some other commonalities about our office fronts, where we have a lot of traffic coming in on a regular basis, such as in the district office. We have a lot of people who come in to apply for jobs and have to set up some safety parameters. So, and safety, it's about how we protect from the spread with the social distancing. So in both cases, talking about limiting city office access, limiting community police access in the office, and then limiting access from the public to our school offices and our district offices. And then where we are divergent is in the groups that we are responsible for and our missions. So on the school side, we've heard at great length, we've heard about our mission of making sure that education and learning continues. At the city side, one of their biggest groups that they took action on, that they are concerned about, are the most vulnerable. So they have the seniors to work with, where we have the school age youth. And then on the police side, they still have the issue of public safety, while still trying to ensure the safety of their team. So we are in communication on those points where we can support each other, such as messaging for the public and for the rest of the board and cabinet. Earlier in the week, we did a joint press release, and today I talked about HIPAA regulations and how we might work together on having common messages around HIPAA, because as people begin to be confirmed to have the COVID virus, it's very important that we as public officials and employers, that we are mindful of HIPAA, which means that we have to protect the identity and confidentiality of those who are identified with, who are confirmed to have the virus. So today, that was a point that we talked about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I do have a question. We are launching this,
Educate everywhere?
Yes, Educate Everywhere. On Thursday, were the students given homework for Monday through Wednesday?
That's a good question, and I suspect that they probably have not been.
No.
Unless they already had a project in store, or maybe they already had an assignment, but that's not a question that I'd ask.
Okay. Maybe we can check with the
There's one of
teachers.
those things, earlier with Vice President, Norwood's question about what have we not thought about, that's one I didn't think about.
Well, actually, I did think about it. We were planning on, we actually this morning, we were planning on having the minimum days next week so that we would prepare. This came suddenly, and so the only homework that I'm assuming the kids went home with is the homework for the weekend, for any long-term projects that the kids are working on. So, our teachers, it was impossible for our teachers to prepare homework for, or the learning, the platforms, everything is in draft form. As we speak, we have been prepared, like I said, we have the pre-planning stage. I started on Monday after the management. We are in the planning articulation to next week so that we can solidify that plan. We're not in the execution yet. So we're sharing with you, after the execution, we're going to come back and debrief, and it's not going to be perfect. We're going to learn a lot from it, but that's where we are right now in the planning of the articulation next week. So we couldn't, it would have been impossible for us to expect our teachers to send packets home for 2 or 3 days. So we need the parents understanding that we need the time for us to, again, to have that articulation and be ready to launch it to our parents on Wednesday.
Norma, I don't know if this is maybe a suggestion, but, so I have 2 elementary school, kids, and their teachers give them monthly homework.
Mhm.
And so like the concern for them was like, when do we turn in our monthly homework? Is that something that teachers can do weekly or monthly or semi-monthly homework?
So that's what we wanted to articulate, and the teachers, the principals met and created, that is what we need to articulate by school, by grade level, as to how are the teachers going to be collecting that work? What is the form of collecting and providing the feedback, assessments, formative assessments? That's part of the plan and the articulation that needs to happen next week.
I know this happened so suddenly and nothing's prepared yet, but I'm sure teachers will have the students make up since they have the flexible schedule, and at home they can catch that up, right?
We have a high school student down there.
Coach, can you share with us? What's your thought on having no homework from Monday to Thursday? Monday through Thursday.
For my case, I don't think it's not like I don't have homework. Like a lot of my teachers were already started planning from like last Wednesday, I think. So I already got a lot of my English homework and stuff, and my teachers have already started posting everything on Google Classroom. So I think they were far prepared ahead of time, like at least a week in advance. So I'm not
Great,
that free.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. So the teachers are up to that too.
I believe our teachers have been ready for a long time. It's just that we have done blended learning. It's just that we never had to have the kids in at home, all of them. And so this situation has created that need, and our teachers are more than ready for it. And I am very grateful because not only are they more than ready for it, they have been very collaborative about it. So they do care about our kids and want what's best, which is what makes Milpitas a very special place, the teachers and the students.
And I'd like to also talk about our support staff. Actually, right now, at Milpitas High School, we have a team of custodians who are cleaning Milpitas High School. And they are going to be cleaning this weekend as well at the district office. And a few of the days next week, and then they'll have completed the deep disinfection. And then I know we have some paraprofessionals who have expressed an interest in potentially using some of this time to develop their skills. And we have our BITs and their supervisor would like to see about providing them with some education as well. And then I know that the rest of our team is eager and curious to find out what they can do, and we'll be talking about that in a Monday.
Just curious, do we have any Vietnamese parents sitting in this room? One, two. Thank you. We do have another briefing on Monday at 5 p.m. also in this boardroom. If you know of other parents, please pass the word on so that they can come and, learn the program, the Educate Everywhere, in order to help their students, their child. Scott, you got my email.
We'll make sure. So 5 o'clock on Monday, a briefing for our Vietnamese parents.
Yes.
And
But everyone else is welcome, not just Vietnamese. I don't want you to think that, oh, wow, just Vietnamese.
So we'll have Vietnamese translation.
Yes, I will do the translation.
Thank you. And then we'll also set up a meeting for our inclusive PTA for our parents of special ed students.
Do you know when that's gonna be?
I have to look at the calendar, but we will get that up.
Thank you.
Mhm. Would you like to come, Cynthia?
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions, any other slides that you want to share?
I would like to, go ahead. I would like to, just in general terms, share the information that I know at this point from the county. And that is that this is not spring break, so make sure everybody understands that. We still have spring break scheduled for April 13th, but to make everybody aware that potentially that could be changed. There is a potential that we might need to add days at the end of the school year. However, I do know that the county superintendent meets with other county superintendents and the governor, and that potentially there may be a governor's order to shorten the school year. So I just want to share with you what I do know. Had we not had the directive from the county superintendent, I would have been asking for your action on doing the minimum days next week.
So is it, I have a question. So right now, are we, as parents and, community, are we waiting for an email from our kid's teacher of next steps and what to do next?
Yes, and we should expect that on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, so Monday, Tuesday, they're not gonna,
There may be communication from the principals, but everybody on Wednesday needs to communicate with the students and then the parents.
I think Kelly brings up a great point. I think everyone, based on the county information that's come out, knows that it's different next week. And some even, just the way that it was publicized and written, there's a belief that there is no school is closed. That the county directive, but it wasn't clear that each school district within the county is sharing out its own plan. So will there be some sort of communication tonight? Or is that gonna happen on Monday in terms of?
We shared a parent communication at about 11. No, we shared it at 1. Yeah. Excuse me? Oh, yes. If you could post it, Chin. Oh, you can do it now.
Yeah. From me, parents group from me.
And then Scott, why don't you go ahead and put that out on all of our social, oh, it is on socials.
Our parents.
Our Facebook, yeah.
It was on the website. It was on Scott's website.
That makes a great point. Could you share with everyone all of the messaging platforms that we are getting the word out about what we're doing?
Yes, we're directing everybody to our website where we will have our messages on our coronavirus page. And then it will be on Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and then also the individual school sites. So your school, if you went to Spangler and you went there, there's a pop-up window with a little short message. You click on it, it goes directly to our coronavirus page on our district site, and that is where you will have all the updated information. So everything is feeding into the website now.
Scott, is it the one you said that schools will ship to everyone?
Yes,
That's what
that's exactly it.
You want me to forward that to you?
It's right there.
Oh, I already got it. Okay, good.
It's on Parent Square.
What's that?
It's on Parent Square.
It's on Parent Square.
Yes, in Parent Square as well.
Any more questions? Does she have any questions for any one of us? No? Okay.
Would you be interested in doing community service to support younger learners during the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, actually, probably.
Actually, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen you with younger learners and you're very good.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions, I'll call this meeting to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.